All right, guys, we're back on Southeastern 16, presented by FanDuel. Brian Edwards joins here for our second live stream of the day. Of course, if you missed it earlier, a little bit of a recap Chris Lee did on Arkansas's just brutal
Oh,
loss, Brian, at Memphis. My goodness. Yeah, so
mm,
go back and listen to Chris talk about that for 20-something minutes. Arkansas fans had plenty to say about that. So if you guys want to check it out, Tennessee, of course, got a big win over UAB, although as Sam Smith noted, he was not pleased with Tennessee's defensive effort in that one, but they did give up 24. But of course, we're here to talk about the game that just wrapped up, actually multiple games. We won't probably touch a lot on Ole Miss and Mississippi State in this stream. You guys know we'll have our third stream tonight, the primetime show. Chris will be back for that. So we'll discuss a little bit more probably of Ole Miss and Mississippi State in that one. But Oklahoma, Brian, gets the win over Auburn, 24-17. This kind of, again, felt like the game of the week in the SEC. Big game for both teams, the Jackson-Arnold Bowl. And, boy, you want to talk about a wild roller coaster of a game here. That's exactly what this was in Norman, Oklahoma.
yes, indeed. And that safety at the end might have mattered to some.
True. Might have.
It might have mattered to some, I am sure. But, man, just back and forth. I thought it was an absolutely epic drive where Auburn took the lead there ever so briefly. I mean, they had the 2 fourth-down conversions on that drive, and certainly after the penalty before the 4th and 1, where it was going to be 4th and 6, Hugh could have elected to go with the field goal. Obviously, that would have been a bad decision because they ended up scoring Malcolm Simmons on the jet sweep. But the 4th and 11 where Arnold scrambled, and I thought he fled the pocket a little early a couple of times, but not that time. That was a great decision, and that was an epic drive. But then the defense that had gotten a nice long rest after that long drive, they just couldn't stop Oklahoma. And then, Oklahoma did not get the 2-point conversion, but then Auburn just could not get anything going there on that last drive, got backed up. And, when it was 3rd and 1,000,000, they not only did, I mean, you had to get at least 10 to 12 yards to make the 4th down a little more manageable. And he fled the pocket again a little too early, only got like a 2-yard gain, and then it set up the safety.
Well, yeah, like you said, I mean, I'm looking at my notes here in terms of just the final sequence, the final fourth quarter of the game. I mean, you could have plenty to talk about in terms of just all these different plays, whether it was, if you're looking back for Auburn, it's sort of the, what was it? The Jackson Arnold overthrew Coleman on one of the plays there. I don't remember exactly the timeline of what that was in the end zone. It was just basically, a hand's distance there. And then, again, it doesn't exactly play out that way. You feel like that's kind of a big misplay opportunity. The trick play they run, I think Coleman was the guy too, again, where you're kind of like, did he get there a little early? And so there's a lot of things like that where you're just thinking, man, so many of those kind of pivotal moments, it felt like went against Auburn in what was a very close game. And Donovan checks in with a $1.99 super chat to say, I'm not okay, is what Donovan letting us know here. And look, I think, again, Brian, like we know how this works. I think the two things we're going to be talking about coming out of this in terms of the biggest storylines, it's going to be the record number of sacks that Oklahoma got in this game, which, I guess if you want to say from Oklahoma fan standpoint, kind of fitting to end the game the way they did, getting the safety off a sack, because that was kind of the story. But it's also going to be, I'm sure Hugh Freeze will say about as far as he can possibly say on his thoughts on some of these calls that were either, did not go their favor in the review, some of the calls that they felt like were left on the table. We know how it works in big games like this. And man, there were several of them. Again, I'm bringing it up because I know you guys are bringing it up in the chat, because we're not going to sit here and act like they didn't exist. But boy, those will be two of the biggest talking points coming out of it.
Yeah, multiple PIs that Auburn did not get. And now the late call there, Satania, the Arkansas transfer, I mean, I thought it was a catch. I thought he had it secured, and then once they got out of bounds, then I was okay with that call. Now, the one early, the scoop and score for the tutty, man, that one, when I first looked at it, I thought, okay, that's going to be an incomplete pass. But then the next angle they gave us, I was like, oh, wait a second. He may have made a football, had possession and made a football play before it got so. And the Auburn's real gripe there is it didn't go the way it was ruled on the field. Like I would have been fine either way. Like it was so close.
Right.
But when that's the case, don't you just go with what it was called on the field? And so therefore, I think Auburn fans, have a pretty. I mean, it was a bang bang play. Could have gone either way, but I mean, I thought Auburn could have a legit gripe there because that's when you're supposed to say it's how it was called on the field, and they did not do that.
Well, we're going to go into the numbers as we always do with these games. Again, I know a lot of people are going to point to maybe the stuff that is not showing up in the numbers as playing, again, a sort of pivotal role in how this thing played out. As we said, if you're just jumping in, 24-17, Oklahoma gets the win. I'm sure most of you watching this watched the game. If you didn't, we will run through some of the final numbers here. I mean, total yards, 303 to 287 in Oklahoma's favor. As we said, I think certainly the sack numbers are what's going to really stand out in terms of Oklahoma getting 10 of those. And I think it was McDonough said at the end of the game, I mean, we're still looking at an Oklahoma team that's not had one takeaway this entire season with their defense. Wow. And yet they're sitting here at 4-0, right? I mean, that's just when you think about you've already played Auburn, you've played Michigan, and still kind of having, although I guess technically they did have the turnover in this one. So I don't know if that applies. I know that may have been a stat that got wiped away, I guess. But still, I do think it's one where, again, you're looking at some of these numbers, the penalties, there was a ton of them for both teams, 13 for 85, 9 for 99 for Oklahoma. The 13, of course, was Auburn. Not much rushing for either. Auburn goes for 67 and then Oklahoma goes for 32. But this was a game, Brian, we knew we were going to really focus in on the quarterbacks. And I think, again, as we said, the sack numbers certainly tell a lot about Jackson Arnold's day in terms of what he was able to do just based off of the pressure that Oklahoma was bringing. 21 of 32, 220 and a touchdown for Arnold in this one. And again, if you count in the sacks and all that, right, the official number is going to say 21 carries for negative 11 yards. But for Mateer, 24 of 36, 271 and a touchdown. And then Mateer, gets the rushing touchdown as well. I think, Brian, you may have the stat on this. I know they said it, but I think that's a 10th straight game. Mateer's had a passing and rushing touchdown. Throughout his career going back to last year. So that's a pretty productive thing there as well.
Yes. But props to Auburn's defense, man. Oklahoma only 32 rushing yards on 26 attempts. Satania came up big. Arkansas misses him. 9 catches, 127 yards, and the 1 touchdown. And but yeah, Auburn's run defense was fantastic. I was looking at the Freeze is the third down play caller, right? 3 of 15 on third down. Now, I guess on the PI on fourth down, they don't give you, because it has Auburn listed 1 of 3 on fourth down efficiency. But they got 2 fourth downs. But I guess that they don't, because remember the fourth down when Coleman got the PI? I guess they don't give you the fourth down in terms of fourth down efficiency. Oh, that's nonsense. They should change that stat. Coleman had 3 catches, 88 yards, but he drew some interferences. I thought they should have gone to him more. Singleton had a good game, 9 catches, 60 yards. But it was a defensive struggle the whole way. So obviously for bettors on the total, it was an under, although you kind of had to be worried about potentially overtime on a couple of potential scenarios that didn't really work out. The 2-point conversion drop, which I thought he should have caught, because I was on Oklahoma 6.5, but it ended up working out. But it went under. The 41 combined points was under um, 47.5, and Auburn money line bets heartbreaker.
Yeah, I mean, and again, like, and by the way, guys, don't worry. Like, we see the chat. We know, like, you're fired up about the officiating in this game, and again, this is why we give you the platform. Weigh in with your thoughts. Remember, super chat's the best way to make sure we get to your comment on these live streams, which are fast moving in terms of lots of comments come in as we react and all this other stuff. But yeah, we're curious what you think about the game as usual. But we mentioned some of the sort of standout stats. And yeah, like I said, Brian, I mean, you go back to just some of those, I think, key moments in this game, whether, again, we talk about certain calls and or missed calls. And I know we have a lot of Auburn fans who will continue to touch on that. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I think when you look at, what was kind of going to be the strength of the Oklahoma team this season, and, if you're looking at it from like what the preseason expectations were, I don't know how many times we said this summer about, hey, if you're looking at one of those teams that maybe is going to take a big step forward, Oklahoma feels like they have the potential to do that. And, this was kind of one of those games where this was the kind of game where you were going to look at it and say, if they win this game, all right, now we're looking at a team that's probably going to be ranked in the top 10 next week. And you're kind of starting to do that look ahead with them and say, all right, man, they've still got, some not so easy games, but now they're sitting here at 4-0. They get Kent State coming up after the bye. I think Florida State put up 100 on them today.
Yeah.
Last time I checked, it was, I think, 60 something to 10. And then it's like, all right, you still look at the remaining schedule for Oklahoma. And that's where I think it gets fascinating, right? Because you're looking ahead, you're like, all right, then it's Texas, at South Carolina, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Alabama, Missouri, LSU. All those teams are ranked except for South Carolina, who just dropped out, as we know. And so, like, this was such a crucial game for this Oklahoma team. And I think we knew it was going to be about the defensive effort this season and seeing if they could really just wreak havoc the way you would expect for a Brent Venables defense. But it was also going to be about Big John Mateer. And I mean, I'll check it again right now, Brian. And I know going into it, and I'm seeing the movement now at FanDuel, like down to plus 750 on, the Heisman Trophy winners, John Mateer. I don't remember where it was at, Brian, before that, but wasn't Carson Beck, I think, still the front runner?
So I know that, Beck was a couple of days ago. I have it written down in my Feel Steel mag that Mateer was back on July 16th, 19-1, which was tied for the 7th shortest odds. But yeah, earlier in the week, it was Beck and who was right there next to him? Oh gosh, I'm blanking. But
Dante Moore from Oregon, I think, is plus 1,000. Yeah, I think that's the only movement I've seen, because Marcel Reed's still at 4th, but he's all the way at plus 1,400 right now. So
okay, yeah, that's where he was all week. And is A&M? Do they play tonight or are they off? I'm blanking.
They are off, right? I think so.
Yes. Oh wow!
Then,
so they have 2 weeks to prepare for Auburn. So making Auburn's spot next week even more difficult is that A&M, you're in a back-to-back road situation and off a heartbreaker, and A&M's they've been chilling all day watching you play. But I will say this about Auburn: I certainly don't downgrade them any off today's performance. In fact, I may think a little bit more of them after today's performance. So, but yeah, back to the Oklahoma thing. Yeah, you basically have a double bye and then just a murderer's row of SEC games. But, I mean, now that they're 4-0, I mean, it depends on how everything else shakes out. And they'll be 5-0 after Kent State. But let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, if they go 4-3 in that murderer's row, that 9-3, obviously it depends on how everything goes in other conferences, but that 9-3 is going to be a pretty strong 9-3, and I would suspect that they would still be in the CFP, just a bid or the last bid conversation if they can go 4-3 in that stretch. If they go 5-2, they are in the playoff, no question.
Couple comments here. Damon says our offense definitely needs some work. Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think when you look at Auburn's defense and the ability to make some plays in this game, and yeah, as we mentioned, I mean, I think there's still some things that are unquestionably, work in progress with Oklahoma on offense. And I know big man Bruce Pearl's here, folks. Big man Bruce is back, one of our proud members here at Southeastern 16. Says the fact that it was even closed despite the horrible calls made on the field says more than anyone is ready to talk about. So big man Bruce chiming in as a notable Auburn fan here. But, that's the thing, right? If you're looking at it with Oklahoma, you feel like, hey, we still got things to work on offensively. I don't think it's going to matter against Kent State, but you know what, Brian, we could probably say the same for some of the remaining opponents they have on what is a gauntlet of the schedule. Texas, clearly still a work in progress on offense. You look at some things, I think Ty Simpson has looked way better than anybody's given him credit for Alabama, but we'll find out a lot more about them next week at Georgia, of course. LSU, I think they would be sitting in the same spot saying we're still a work in progress offensively. So, I think it's going to be something to see how this plays out in terms of maybe some of the things. But again, for Oklahoma fans, you're going to come out of this being like, come on, we just beat what, like Ryan said, I probably even still feel pretty good about Auburn coming out of this game, just based on kind of the overall performance and feeling like they were right there with a chance to win. But man, that defense for Oklahoma is good enough to take them very far, even with a tough schedule.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I forget what they were going into this game, but I'm noticing that Oklahoma is now plus 950 to win the SEC. So that is the fifth shortest odds behind Georgia, Texas, Bama, and LSU. And now Auburn is 40 to 1. I think they were more like 20 to 1 earlier in the week, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe more like 25 or 30, but they've gone down a little bit. What else? So so Auburn, now they go at A&M, just terrible situation, and those are, I mean you got to go, those are pretty good trips, all the way to Oklahoma, back to Auburn, and then back to Texas. Then you'll have 2 weeks to prepare and get Georgia. And let's see, you'll get Georgia at home, and Georgia will be coming off of Kentucky at home that game. So it's like this for all the SEC teams, really. I mean, there's not many layups in this league. There are none, really. I mean, because Mississippi State undefeated. Kentucky's been, they've been a little bit better than I thought they were going to be. They played Ole Miss pretty tough.
Yeah. And like you said, I think even, next week we will obviously learn a lot about a lot of teams based on, easily the best slate of the year so far in the SEC next week, with just all the big games that are there. But yeah, I'm fascinated to see kind of how, because it's a tough loss for Auburn. I mean, there's no question, because again, this was a huge game, kind of knowing this was what you felt like a lot of people will judge you on this kind of game. I know the big win against Baylor to start the season was huge, and still carries a lot of weight for this team. But this was kind of putting it in that spot, and that national spot where you are kind of the game of the week in the SEC. And again, I know big man Bruce and others kind of commenting on, hey, if just a couple of those calls go your way, if just even one or two, it completely maybe changes the outcome of the game. I don't think there's any question. But yeah, there are still some things I think coming out of this for Auburn. Like we said, I feel like you feel pretty positive about. I mean, Coleman, man, Brian, you just see him in a game like this, and you're like, you could literally just do the play where it's like, let's just throw it every single time to him. You're going to either get an interference call, or he's going to make a catch and be able to make an impact. And so I know, like we come on and we do this with any game, anytime. And like, we're trying to tell the team that just lost the game, hey, we still feel pretty good about things. I know it's harder, when you're a hardcore fan, to do that about a certain team, but I still think there's a lot of positives you can take away from this game for Auburn, even though, as we said, it's just the schedule doesn't certainly do you any favors having to, pick back up and go play at A&M next week. So.
Yeah, no, there's plenty of positives coming out of it. And Cam Coleman is I wish the college stats would give you the targets, because I wish I knew how many targets he had. All I'm looking at is 3 catches, 88 yards, 1 touchdown. I know he had a lot more targets because he caused a couple of penalties And yeah, he's just a monster. And I mean, a couple times I was like, "Where's the safety help, Venables? I mean, you can't leave your guy out on an island." Like the fourth and sixth when he got. I'm like, how is there not another? Where's the other defenders? You know, I couldn't believe it was single coverage. I tweeted literally as that play was about to start. I was like, "You got to go to Coleman here," and Jackson Arnold wisely did. But yeah, another thing to feel good. I know I already mentioned it, but the run defense was spectacular for Auburn, and really, you're on the road, and that epic drive. I mean, it didn't stick, but that go-ahead drive was awesome, and Jackson Arnold made big plays at crunch time, and because that was the game there. They had to score, they did, but then the defense couldn't keep it.
Yeah. Big Man Bruce says he thinks the route combos have to work for Arnold. Seems like they're almost counterproductive to what Jackson's good at. I think that's an interesting point in terms of, because like we said, I mean, you know, with Hugh Freeze, you're going to get some pretty creative stuff, and I think it's going to be, again, these are the kind of things I feel like that if you get beyond some of the more, again, kind of loud stuff that certainly is there that many people will talk about. These are the kind of games, I think, if you're looking at Auburn. And I know Donovan said a minute ago, Donovan, I'll pull it up, saying, hey, we're a 5-7 team. I mean, it's not an easy schedule, as we said, but I think that Auburn to me feels like better than a 5-7 team.
They're gonna be
I mean, like we said, I think that's probably going to be better than that. But yes, there are still some pretty tough games on the schedule, but it is just, tweaking some of those things and seeing how some of these big things play out, and Big Man Bruce kind of adding in here too. Need more quick hitters, getting the weapons, the ball out in space. I think that's a good point too, in terms of maybe it's not always about just going for the long ball, just getting some quick passes to some guys and just let them do their thing. But yeah, all good points from you guys. You always bring it in the chat, so we appreciate that. Keep your comments coming. Again, super chats always welcome here. Big Man Bruce. To Hyde Pettiford could run a nasty drag route. You're probably right about that. Right? Got some speed to him. So,
but for Auburn, I mean, every fan is going to be immensely disappointed in the aftermath of a loss. But I'm looking at Auburn's schedule. There's not a game on their schedule that's not winnable. Not one.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying they're going to be favored,
right.
In a whole lot of them, but they'll be favored in about half of them. But I mean, there's not one of them that you look at and say that's a guaranteed loss. I mean, Alabama and Georgia both got out of Jordan-Hare by the skin of their teeth 2 years ago, when they were both probably better than they are now, and Auburn wasn't nearly as good as it is now. So, all those games at Jordan-Hare, they obviously can win.
Yeah. And then I know Josh bringing up some good points here and talking about, and by the way, Oklahoma fans, if you're watching this on replay, we have a lot of Auburn fans here at the channel. So if you're like, why are you only bringing up some of the more, Auburn slanted chats? We just have a lot of Auburn fans. And so our guys always weigh in here, but Josh saying the biggest thing for me, Auburn not adjusting to the cover, the underneath, which led to the bigger drives and sort of the more momentum building type drives there for Oklahoma, and Sooner Cowboys weighing in with Auburn needing to fix the middle of the field defensively. So, So again, I think that it'll be interesting to kind of look back at this game in a little bit. I always like to, Brian. I know it's a very, again, fast-moving SEC week to week, but I do like to go back and look at some of these things with these kind of games after the fact, just to see if you can pick up some extra stuff based on, again, just consuming the game the first time around. So that'll be a fun watch, I think, with that one. But all right, anything else with you guys in the chat? Weigh in your thoughts. Auburn, Oklahoma, maybe give us some predictions, your record predictions. There's a nice one we'll throw out for this game the rest of the way. How do you see these playing out? I know Donovan threw out his, what I think is a little pessimistic on his Tigers, but
5-7 was very pessimistic.
Come on, Donovan, we're trying to talk you back up here, but
he needs to get an hour removed. He needs to get an hour removed from this tough one, and he'll be more optimistic.
Donovan, we'll get you back on track. So Donovan also asked, did we just run out of luck after the kick six? Is that what happened? We just completely ran out of luck. You never know how that could play in. But again, you guys weigh in. As we said, upcoming games, we always do. Auburn at Texas A&M. Oklahoma gets the week off before they play Kent State. So, all right. And I'll throw this one in here quickly from earlier from Luke, Brian. Brian, are you on the over on DJ Lagway picks in this game?
So if Luke would have watched Chris and I's preview as we were introduced, starting the preview, he was asking me to look at the line, and I was looking at it, and I gave the total and the money line, and then I was like, and they have some props. I see DJ Lagway's passing yards, and I go, but I do not see his interceptions, which I'm sure some people might be interested in. So I don't think they had an interception prop. I looked for it.
That may tell you all you need to know about Brian's thoughts on his Gators entering this game. We will do a quick score update. Miami has scored 7-0 5 minutes into that one. But all right, we'll quickly run through, again, some pretty quick thoughts on these next two. So we can get Brian back to watching the Gators. And, of course, this Missouri-South Carolina game, pretty big one here. We want to keep eyes on that. But, Brian, any quick thoughts on Ole Miss Tulane? Ole Miss wins at 45-10. Once again, Trinidad Chambliss in for the Rebels. 17 for 27, 307 through the air, 2 touchdowns. Also 14 carries for 112 on the ground for him.
Yeah, I mean, I said this last week. I think we have a very big quarterback controversy in Oxford right now. In fact, to me, there is no controversy. I think Chambliss has won the job. He has been, and this is no scrub team that they played today.
Mm-hmm.
Tulane is good. Tulane got respect from the betting market all week. It's not like people were hammering Ole Miss and that line kept shooting up all week. There was two-way action on the game all week, but they out-yarded them 548 to 282, and they beat up on them 45-10. Very impressive performance for Ole Miss. That is one of the best G5 teams out there, and now Ole Miss has a big, and that could have very easily been a look-ahead situation with LSU on deck. And so now we have this monster game coming up, and Ole Miss gets it at home. And if I'm remembering correctly, I think they've won back-to-back at home to LSU, as I'm checking that right here, and that is correct. So, high stakes in Oxford next weekend.
Yeah, that's going to be a big one. Obviously, we'll have it covered. If you want to get on your Trinidad Chambliss Heisman odds over at FanDuel, just check plus 5,000 currently there for him, which is, by the way, better than Diego Pavia, which I know Auburn fans may not want to hear this name on the stream, but you'll worry about him in several weeks. But yeah, I thought a pretty convincing performance here from Ole Miss. I thought this game too. Not to say that I thought Tulane would win, but I thought maybe it would not be exactly like this. But yeah, Ole Miss takes care of business. Like you said, it seemed like one of those potential look-ahead type spots, although, Tulane, a much stronger team than other teams we would kind of categorize in that mark. 548 yards of total offense for Ole Miss in this one, and we mentioned the numbers for Chambliss as well. And so, yeah, a very dominant performance from Ole Miss. Again, Chris may have some further thoughts on the Rebels here tonight, and we know we'll be talking about them quite a bit next week when it comes to the big game against LSU.
I want to know what you I guess it depends on how healthy Simmons is, but this is a monster game. I think you got to stick with Chambliss. Especially if Simmons is only 90%. Yeah,
it's almost like we do this all the time, like in other sports and everything. Like, it's different depending on situational stuff, but like I'm always like, you know what, you just ride the hot hand. Like if it's not necessary to make the change, like don't do it. Like just, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like they've looked really good. So like, why would you kind of mess with that, especially kind of the momentum you've built going into next week? And so, I think that'll be talked about plenty when it comes to that. So, all right, quickly too, we'll give some thoughts on Mississippi State here before we hop off. They get the 38-10 win over Northern Illinois. I can't say I'm surprised the way this game unfolded, Brian, because I think Jay and I did the preview on that one this week. I know you guys talked about that one a little bit, but we said, hey, it's a Thomas Hammock coach team, and we know what they did to Notre Dame. You kind of knew the methodical sort of style. You'd expect them, to kind of come out, try to play their game. And early on, this was a game. It's 14-10 at halftime, but Mississippi State just kind of, breaks the doors open there in the second half. They scored 24 of their 38 in the final 2 quarters and get the win. But I know sometimes, hey, it's like we're off to a great start. We're riding high. But I think even Jay and I said this week, we're like, this is not going to be an easy game for Mississippi State, all things considered. And we mentioned that look ahead possibility too. Tennessee comes in next week, huge, opportunity to once again get a top 25 upset in your stadium. But this game went about like I thought. I don't even want to say it was a slow start because I don't want to take anything away from Northern Illinois, but this was one that was not going to just be hey, we're going to come out here, work our stuff, and be able just to run through this team. That wasn't going to happen, but ultimately Mississippi State still finds a way to get the win by 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, not Blake Shapen's best game, but the running game was working. So why go away from it now? And Shapen actually contributed running as well. 51 rushing yards, 11 attempts, 12 of 20, 160, 1 touchdown, no picks. But overall, rushing the ball, 292 rushing yards, 4 tutties on 49 attempts. So they stuck to the ground game, and let's see if they've taken these look-ahead lines off. Well, they still have Alabama, Georgia. But earlier in the week, our friends at FanDuel had Tennessee 9.5 for the trip to Starkville next week. And that now sets up one of the bigger games in Starkville in a minute.
Yeah, it's going to be a big one there. And as Hunter notes here, that Mississippi State running back room right now, that could be the key. If you're talking about a team, they just keep winning and winning. I think it's just the options they have within their offensive scheme and being able to use those running backs. All 3 of those guys, I think, get plays of 20 or more yards tonight against Northern Illinois. So, big sort of playability with that entire group there for Mississippi State. And so we will, again, touch more on the Bulldogs, I'm sure. We'll see if they make Chris's medal stand tonight. That's always what you're aiming for on the primetime show. And also, we'll see where Mississippi State falls. The power rankings will have a lot of coverage on that game coming up next week. So big man Bruce going to weigh in and say Mississippi State's going to make a game out of the one against Tennessee. Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. As Brian said, I think that line will be interesting to see where that maybe ultimately settles with that game in particular. But all right, on the way out here, quick hitter super chat from Donovan, 199. Auburn's making the Final Four again. That's right, Donovan. See, just turn your attention to the positive spin. Even if you have to focus on another sport, it's fun. Brian's going to give you something it's here. Look at that.
I snagged this at Publix Thursday night.
There you go, folks. If you want your hands on a magazine to get you ready for basketball season, Auburn, I don't think it's time to turn the page just yet. But if you want to, those things are available to do so. Go find Lindy's preview out there. You guys know I always talk about the Blue Ribbon College Basketball Yearbook. Check that out as well. You can check out all of our interviews we've done already over the past several weeks on the channel for basketball. But all right, let's see what else we got here. And 9-time champion, I always have to give him a shout. One of our valued members says he would take teams 4 through 8 in the SEC over 1 through 3. Says give me Oklahoma over Georgia, Tennessee over LSU. So 9-time champion, giving out a little love there when it comes to where he thinks these teams will be slotted. Maybe not in our power rankings, but in his there for sure. And on the way out, big man Bruce giving some love to Vandy, one of the best teams in the country, he says right now. They're fluid. They have a game plan. They play with incredible effort. Can't deny any of those, Brian. Commodores, we'll see if they take care of the business tonight against Georgia State. But there you go, guys. Some quick thoughts, as we said, on this particular slate of action. Anything else, Brian, you want to add before we hop off and go watch the Gators, Gamecocks, and Tigers, and much more?
I got nothing to add other than Missouri is in the red zone, trailing 7-6 mid-second, and I got a lot of money on Missouri. I would like them to get in the end zone here.
You heard it here. If you want to have a rooting interest coming out of this particular stream, root for Brian in that one. But all right, guys, we appreciate you. As we said earlier, I know there will be plenty of things. Chris weighing in on the way out here. All caps. Refs, question mark. I know it'll be talked about a lot. You guys continue to weigh in the comments after the stream. You know you can. And yes, we will, again, I'm sure have many additional thoughts. And you know whose thoughts you're really waiting on, folks. Jay Greason's, because you will get Jay's thoughts on this game coming up on Monday. Jay, not available this weekend, but you will get his thoughts on this Auburn-Oklahoma game coming up on Monday. But again, we appreciate you. Turn on your notifications, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. We'll be back with another stream here in several hours after this next round of games. And again, guys, we appreciate you as always. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Auburn, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, all that. Thanks for your support, and we'll talk to you soon at Southeastern 16 presented by FanDuel.